The 911 system was designed to help save lives by speeding up the response time in an emergency. On July 14th, 1990, in New Brunswick, New Jersey, one young boy learned its real value for the first time.
911. There is a song. It's called 911 is a Joke. On July 14th, beginning my shift, I got 2 crank calls. Play on the phone. Yep. You get angry sometimes. You try to call them back and explain to the parents that 911 is not a joke and 911 is not to be played on.
At 2:51 p.m., Rosa Natal got a third call from a child.
911. I'm playing. Please, will you stop playing on a phone? Are you playing on a phone? No. What do you need? I need one ambulance, please. You need an ambulance for what? Because my mom is sick.
The third call that I got was a small child, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Is this kid playing on the phone? I was going to hang up, but I said no.
Where's your mom now? She's in the kitchen. She's in the kitchen? Uh-huh. And what's your name? Patrick. Patrick? Yep. And what floor do you live on? Huh? What floor do you live on? What floor do we live on? Private home. It is a private home. A private home. Okay, Patrick, we'll send somebody over, okay? Okay.
The turning point in that call was when I asked him, what floor did he live on? When I heard his mother yell out, it was a residential home. That's when I realized Patrick's call was legit. It's not a prank.
I got a small child calling me from South Talmud Street. Says his mom is sick. She's sitting in the kitchen. Okay? Alrighty. All right. Bye-bye.
EMTs Steve Pavlik and Michael Calabrese responded to the call.
We were dispatched for an unknown medical. We responded to the call with lights and sirens because we weren't sure what we were going for. It could be a number of things.
I knew my mother needed help quick, and I had to dial 911 because if I didn't, my mother wouldn't even get no help. When I heard the sirens and the boom boom stuff, I went to the door and I said, Mom, it's them. And when I saw the ambulance coming, then I did this. And then they parked, and so I showed them where my mother was.
What's wrong? All right.
Within 4 minutes of 5-year-old Patrick Hammond's call for help for his mother, Joan, EMTs arrived on the scene.
The patient appeared very sick. She was very sweaty, vomiting. I began to get the history from the patient, and my partner began to assess her vital signs. I was gathering up the medicines to try and ascertain what kind of medical history she had. We found out her blood pressure was elevated. With her blood pressure being that high, the patient may be having a stroke.
I want you to breathe real nice and easy for me.
We determined that her condition was critical, and she needed a rapid transport to the hospital.
A neighbor, Sister Rose, who saw the ambulance, came over to look after Patrick and his younger brother, Matthew, until relatives could be reached.
When the paramedics took my mommy, my brother Matthew was scared, but I told Matthew that, Matthew, my mother's going to be all right. And when we saw the ambulance leave, then we both started crying because we never left the mother like that. We really loved her.
We're inbound 48.
Throughout the 5-minute ride to the hospital, 48-year-old Joan Hammond drifted in and out of consciousness. Rescue workers were still not certain what was wrong with her.
1, 2, 3.
Cardiologist Mahmoud Qureshi was brought in.
When I examined her in the emergency room, I found that she was drowsy, almost unconscious. Her blood pressure was extremely high, 260/170.
As Joan's condition continued to deteriorate, Dr. Qureshi ordered a CAT scan to try and pinpoint the cause of her symptoms.
The worst case scenario is that the patient goes deeper into coma and finally dies. At the lower levels of the brain, there was no evidence of any damage or hemorrhage, but as we came up towards the cerebral cortex, or the main brain, we found that these ventricles were found full of blood, indicating that there had been a rupture of blood vessel in her brain.
Joan had suffered a severe hemorrhage too deep within her brain to be operated on and repaired.
During those 48 hours, she was hanging between life and death, but we treated her with medications, intravenous medications, to bring her blood pressure under control.
Can you squeeze this one?
Joan responded surprisingly quickly to treatment. Within 2 days, she was conscious and even speaking again.
It's overwhelming, the fact that your child has saved your life. But thank God that day the children were there. If he hadn't made the call, I don't know where I would be now. I feel that it was a miracle. I feel that I'm well blessed to have these children. Oh, glad to see you guys.
After 3 weeks, Joan was released from the hospital. Though she continues on blood pressure medication and physical therapy, she suffered no permanent damage as a result of the ruptured artery in her brain.
I remember driving up to my mom's house, and Patrick was in the driveway. And he just ran out to me in the car and just cried out, "Mom, you're home, you're home." That was special.
When I saw Mommy, and then I jumped up and I went in the house and told Grandma, and I was so excited, and I said, "Grandma, my mother's outside. She's outside in the car."
I just have to praise the dispatcher that had the presence of mind to question my son in such a way that she knew that he was telling the truth.
He's the one that deserves the hugs and kisses, Patrick, because he did a wonderful job. He really, really did. And he's not my son, but I feel proud.
Yeah, I think they're looking for a little food, but you guys gave it to the deer. Every parent needs to make their children aware that it's not something that you fool around with. It's a matter of life and death. While they're fooling around making a crank call, there might be someone else that can't get a call through. No one ever knows when it's going to be their turn. On July 14th, it was mine. And I'm just grateful to be here.